Ever wonder what really went down at Diddy's highly secretive white parties? The kind of over-the-top events where, weirdly enough, even kids showed up? What about Jay-Z's private gatherings, where he once stabbed someone and still managed to walk away without catching a charge? These are just some of the wild stories hiding behind some of the rap game's most exclusive parties. These gatherings are places where deals get locked in, alliances take shape, and the kind of stuff you wouldn't believe goes down. Before we dive into how these exclusive bashes became the center of so much chaos and control, let's break down some of the most secret parties thrown by rappers. Diddy's white parties. From 1998 to 2009, Diddy's all-white parties were the peak of exclusivity. These weren't just your average celebrity get-togethers. They were cultural moments, hosted in the Hamptons or Beverly Hills, dripping in luxury and packed with the biggest stars in entertainment.
I know you're known for the parties. When you think of a party or a good time, you think of Puff. You do.
Jay-Z, Beyonce, Mariah Carey, Paris Hilton. If your name carried weight, you were there. But while the surface screamed glitz and glamour, the stories lurking underneath told a different tale. These parties had one major rule: no cameras, no media. Whatever went down stayed behind those mansion doors. And that secrecy wasn't just about protecting celebrity privacy. It created a mystique that made the parties even more desirable. Inside, the A-listers mingled, networked, and let loose in ways they never could with prying eyes around. But the real story was in the after parties, where the glitz turned into something far darker. Those who stayed for the after parties weren't getting the polished version of Diddy's events anymore. Allegations suggest these late-night sessions took a hard turn, pushing boundaries that left some guests questioning what they had walked into. The FBI's current investigation into these parties has people wondering if the tight secrecy was less about privacy and more about covering up activities no one wanted in the spotlight. Diddy's all-white parties were a masterclass in control. Every detail was locked down, from the vibe in the room to the double-secured doors. But now, years later, those layers of secrecy have become suspect.
Kids have like an hour left, so get extra comfortable, kids, because after that y'all gotta go. It's a wrap for y'all, because this thing turns into something that when y'all get older y'all don't want to come to.
Allegations tied to these events paint a picture of manipulation, exploitation, and abuse. Nothing like the glamorous, carefree image the parties once sold to the world. Even before the rumors hit the surface, neighbors started noticing things that didn't sit right. Women leaving these events were visibly disoriented, stumbling out of it with their clothes disheveled. Some were seen wandering aimlessly, their underwear exposed, which was a shocking contrast to the polished party narrative Diddy was known for. It made people question what was really happening inside those doors. And then there were the claims about the drinks. Witnesses and survivors have alleged that the beverages weren't just spiked with alcohol. They were laced with drugs like ketamine, GHB, ecstasy, and cocaine. These aren't just party drugs. They're substances that strip away someone's ability to consent, leaving them vulnerable.
For all those in London that don't know what happens to the white man when he comes to a P. Diddy party, this is what happens to the white man.
The allegations suggest this wasn't accidental. It was intentional, creating an environment where exploitation thrived unchecked. And thrive it did, according to the accounts. These parties reportedly stretched on for days, spiraling into what can only be described as nightmare scenarios. Orgies involving sex workers and high-profile guests were allegedly commonplace, with drugs fueling the entire ordeal. But it wasn't just about sex. Accounts include instances of physical violence and degradation that turned these gatherings into something far more sinister. Perhaps the most unsettling part of these allegations is the role Diddy's inner circle is said to have played. These weren't just friends or colleagues enjoying the party. They were allegedly part of a system designed to exploit. Women were reportedly trapped, mistreated, and filmed. Even more disturbing, the footage wasn't kept private. Claims suggest it was sold, turning those horrifying moments into profit. It's calculated, it's cruel, and it paints a picture that's hard to process. These weren't the kind of parties you just stumbled into. They were locked down, secretive, and tightly controlled. Phones were confiscated at the door, cutting off any chance of evidence escaping the venue. The no phones policy wasn't just about protecting celebrity images. It seemed like it was there to hide the darker truths of what was really happening. One story that stands out comes from Thalia Graves, who filed a lawsuit in 2024. Graves said that back in 2001, Diddy and his bodyguard Joseph Big Joe Sherman lured her to a party at Daddy's House recording studio. The invite came under the pretense of discussing her boyfriend's performance at Bad Boy Records. But once there, things allegedly took a horrifying turn. Graves. claims she was drugged and later woke up bound, her hands tied behind her back with what felt like plastic bags. She tried to fight back, but was slammed headfirst into a table. The next thing she remembers is waking up alone on a couch in pain, bruised, and unable to piece together everything that had happened. What makes Graves' account even more disturbing is what she learned years later. Her boyfriend at the time revealed that Diddy and Sherman had filmed the entire thing. According to her lawsuit, this wasn't just a video passed around the inner circle, it was reportedly sold as pornographic material. Graves says this wasn't a one-off incident, but part of a larger pattern where Diddy and his crew would record and profit off non-consensual acts. Her allegations line up with several other lawsuits detailing eerily similar stories. One woman reported being drugged at a party, only to wake up bruised, disoriented, and with no memory of what had happened. In another lawsuit, Crystal McKinney shared how she was drugged at a 2003 event and later coerced into sexual acts. Like Graves, McKinney alleged that Diddy filmed her and distributed the footage without her consent. April Lampros, another accuser, said Diddy recorded her back in 1997 and later showed the tape to others as a way to humiliate and assert control over her. These aren't isolated incidents. They paint a chilling picture of a pattern of exploitation under the guise of glamour and exclusivity. What made these events possible was the strict control Diddy and his associates maintained over these parties. Phones were confiscated, security was tight, and the atmosphere was carefully curated to ensure no evidence could leave. Victims often felt powerless to come forward, fearing retaliation or public humiliation from the release of tapes. In her November 2023 lawsuit, Cassie Ventura shared stories about these secretive gatherings. She alleged that she was coerced into sexual acts during these events, where powerful people used the party atmosphere as a smokescreen for abuse. In her September 2024 lawsuit, singer Dawn Richard revealed that she was both a victim and a witness at Diddy's parties. She described being emotionally and physically mistreated and witnessing similar treatment of others. Richard claimed that during these gatherings, Diddy's control extended far beyond the music business, turning party spaces into places where people were forced into situations they couldn't escape. Another lawsuit filed in September 2024 by a Florida model detailed her experience at one of Diddy's notorious gatherings. She claimed her drink was spiked, leaving her unconscious, only to wake up bruised and disoriented. She later discovered she was pregnant, alleging that Diddy's girlfriend at the time, rapper Young Miami, pressured her to have an abortion. Attorney Tony Busby filed lawsuits for multiple unnamed victims, many of whom described horrific experiences at Diddy's parties.
Drugs were found in their system, weird drugs. Drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called Xylazine, or Trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
Among the 120 potential cases, some victims were minors at the time of the alleged incidents. These accounts share common themes: drug drinks, coercion, and high-profile attendees abusing their power. What makes the allegations even more chilling is the systematic nature described in these filings. The secrecy and exclusivity weren't just about maintaining a high-profile image. They were allegedly about ensuring that no evidence left the venue and no victims could speak out without facing backlash or threats. Both Diddy and Kanye used their parties to show power, but their worlds overlapped as allegations of abuse tied their names together. Kanye West's Wyoming ranch gatherings. Kanye West parties are always something else. Half art show, half elite social club. His events feel like a direct invitation into his world, full of control, mystery, and that over-the-top extravagance he's known for. But beneath all that curated glamour, some unsettling stories have started to come out. Take his Yee album release party back in May 2018. He threw it at this remote Wyoming ranch surrounded by mountains and wild horses. Celebs, industry insiders, and influencers were flown in for what was sold as this intimate artistic experience. Bonfires, marshmallows, Kanye's new music. It was all set up to feel like something magical, but for some, the secrecy of Kanye's events goes deeper than protecting his art. Singer-songwriter Nikki Heaton shared her story about one of Kanye's secret gatherings during an Instagram Live in 2024. She said it happened when she was 19 and had just dropped her track Bad Intentions. Getting invited to a recording studio by Kanye seemed like the perfect shot to connect with big industry names. But according to her, the vibe shifted as soon as she arrived. Kanye and Diddy, both clearly intoxicated, and things only got worse from there. When offered a drink, Heaton's instincts kicked in. Sensing something wasn't right, she pretended to sip, avoiding what she believed was a tainted beverage. That move may have been her first line of defense in what would become a harrowing experience. As the night went on, the other women in the studio started leaving. Even Heaton's manager stepped out, leaving her alone with Diddy, Kanye, and a few of their associates. The mood shifted quickly from uncomfortable to outright threatening. The men began pressuring her to take off her clothes, claiming it was so hot in the studio. At first, Heaton tried to deflect, direct, protesting, but the situation escalated. She alleged that Diddy and Kanye became physical, ripping her shirt off and leaving her almost fully exposed. The sense of helplessness in that moment was overwhelming. Heaton described the moment as unforgettable during her Instagram live. She explained that she looked to one of the other men in the room for help, silently mouthing the word help, but he turned away. That moment, according to Heaton, solidified her fear that no one would come to her rescue that night.
That's not what haunts me. It's this. It's as these two grown men were pawing at me, trying to take my clothes off, I look over to this man asking for help, and I literally mouth the word help. And we lock eyes. And he looks away.
Realizing she was on her own, Heaton relied on sheer determination to break free. She lunged forward, catching her attackers off guard just long enough to make her way to the exit. Once out of the room, she hid in another studio for 25 minutes, shaking and terrified, before she managed to contact her manager and arrange an Uber to leave the scene. Her account gives a glimpse into a scene where control and secrecy ruled, with Kanye and his crew allegedly using their power to exploit and silence. Kanye's parties might look glamorous from the outside, but they all seem to follow the same playbook: total lockdown. Phones are reportedly snatched at the door, cutting guests off from the outside world. That no evidence policy ensures whatever goes down inside stays under wraps, leaving attendees exposed and without any backup. Then there's the Vegas listening party for vultures, which took things to another level entirely, and not in a good way. What started as another high-energy Kanye event quickly spiraled into chaos, turning into one of his most controversial moments. It kicked off like any Kanye party, hyped to the max, with just enough mystery to keep people guessing. He announced it on social media, teasing a rave-like vibe in some random warehouse on the outskirts of Vegas. Tickets were a jaw-dropping $2,000 each, and fans were shelling out in advance with zero clarity on refunds. By the time the crowd showed up, the energy was buzzing. It was Kanye, after all. You never knew what was coming. And then it came. Somewhere in the middle of the night, Kanye grabbed the mic and let loose with one of his trademark rants. At first, it was just him airing grievances about his former business partners, calling them out for betrayal and greed, but it didn't stop there. The rant took a darker turn when Kanye made anti-Semitic comments that left the crowd in disbelief. He started claiming that Jewish people own most of the hospitals, schools, and businesses in LA, a baseless, offensive statement that had some attendees immediately pushing back. But Kanye wasn't having it. When someone in the crowd called him out, shouting that he wasn't God, Kanye lost it. He fired back, threatening to have the person kicked out on the spot, and then kept the mic to keep digging deeper. In the same rant, he compared himself to Adolf Hitler and Jesus Christ like it was nothing. Whenever anyone dared to challenge him, he'd just yell at them to shut up, making the whole vibe even more uncomfortable. Adidas, his longtime partner, finally pulled the plug, along with a bunch of other brands that didn't want the drama from his parties. The whole event turned into a mess. Las Vegas police showed up to shut the party down because it wasn't even licensed. The promoter got hit with a citation, and the crowd, who had dropped thousands of dollars on tickets, got kicked out into the night. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, more details about Kanye's secret parties started to emerge. Former Yeezy Chief of Staff Lauren Pisciata stepped forward, dropping bombshells about what really goes down behind the scenes. In her lawsuit, she described how Kanye turned his Yeezy offices into a sexual playground, with his wife Bianca Censori allegedly playing the role of an orgy coordinator. Pisciata's lawsuit alleges that Kanye frequently turned office spaces into makeshift bedrooms, setting up mattresses, blankets, and pillows in private rooms or even closets. These spaces, she claimed, were used for what Kanye referred to as his sex parties. The allegations go further, stating that Bianca Censori, far from being just a bystander, was actively involved in coordinating these events, allegedly serving as an on-call participant and orchestrator of Kanye's so-called fantasies. Pisciata's account gets even more unsettling when she describes Kanye's behavior at these parties. She alleged that Kanye often tried to expose her to these events, creating situations where she felt trapped or manipulated. According to the lawsuit, Kanye's actions were calculated to make her feel powerless, and Bianca, who she claimed was unfazed by his behavior, reportedly enabled much of it. One particularly disturbing claim involves an incident where Kanye allegedly grabbed Pisciata by the throat during a party with Bianca present. Pisciata described how Bianca stood nearby, showing no reaction, as if it were just another part of their dynamic. In her lawsuit, Pisciata alleged that Bianca was not only used to Kanye's behavior, but actively participated in some of it, allegedly taking part in what Pisciata called twisted and bizarre sexual behavior that mirrored Kanye's public and private persona. Kanye West's parties and video shoots have always carried a layer of controversy, and model Jennifer Ahn's lawsuit adds another unsettling story to the mix. She alleges that Kanye mistreated her during the 2010 shoot for LaRue's In for the Kill video. According to Ahn, things went off the rails quickly. Kanye, surrounded by his team and his then-girlfriend Victoria's Secret model Salida Ebanks, allegedly set a tone of unchecked behavior. It started with Kanye casually dismissing her as the Asian girl, a comment she says felt dehumanizing and racist. But it didn't stop there. In the middle of filming, Ann says Kanye declared that it was art and that he was like Picasso before choking her in front of his team. She alleges that he then rammed his fingers into her mouth, forcing her to gag repeatedly, simulating an act of forced oral sex. All of this, she claims, happened while cameras rolled, with his team standing by and doing nothing to stop it. Even more chilling was the presence of Ebanks, who Ahn says saw what was happening but turned away instead of stepping in. That lack of intervention from both Ebanks and Kanye's team left Ann feeling powerless and alone. The lawsuit doesn't just target Kanye. It also calls out Universal Music Group for failing to oversee or address the situation. While Kanye is known to stir controversy, Drake has kept things relatively quiet in his OVO fortress, surrounded by his own private security detail. Drake's OVO mansion parties. Drake's sprawling Toronto mansion, known as the Embassy, is at the center of countless local horror stories about what allegedly goes down behind those high-security gates. Neighbors and locals have whispered about the dark side of Drake's lavish parties, painting a picture that's far from the glamorous after-parties we see on Instagram. Instead, the story suggests a scene that's more Bad Boy Records office party chaos than just another night of champagne toasts and hit records on repeat. Living just a few blocks away from the Embassy means you get a front-row seat to the constant buzz surrounding the property. Drake's OVO team is always on the move, rolling deep in convoys with high-profile security patrolling the area. The sheer scale of the operation feels less like a celebrity keeping a low profile and more like a fortress protecting its secrets. Neighbors claim it's not just about keeping fans at bay. It's about controlling what happens inside and keeping those stories from ever reaching the public. Rumors of wild parties have swirled for years. These aren't your average A-list gatherings with a DJ and hors d'oeuvres. The word on the street is that some guests leave with more regrets than memories, and those who've tried to speak out reportedly find themselves facing threats or extortion from Drake's team. Victims of alleged misconduct at these parties have claimed they've been pressured into silence, with OVO's influence looming large over any attempts to seek justice. The mansion itself has become a sort of ominous landmark in Toronto. Locals say the sheer presence of Drake's security team gives the area an eerie vibe. You might see black SUVs cruising the streets near the Embassy, and it's not unusual to spot OVO merch being worn like a badge of honor by fans who treat Drake like hip-hop royalty. The mansion has a reputation. Some admire it as the ultimate flex, while others see it as a fortress hiding darker truths. One of the most unsettling accounts comes from Bennett Sipes, who filed a lawsuit against Drake, claiming he was mistreated at one of Drake's parties. Sipes, a former contestant on Love Island, alleges that his experience at a Drake-hosted event was anything but idyllic. He accuses the rapper, alongside NFL star Odell Beckham Jr. and others, of orchestrating a situation that left him physically and emotionally scarred. Sipes' story began in March 2018 at a Hollywood nightclub, Lady Delilah, during what was supposed to be an exclusive after-party. According to Sipes, the night took a dark turn when he tried to access Drake and Beckham's VIP section but was denied entry. He claims that rejection quickly escalated into an altercation, with tensions flaring between him and members of Drake's entourage. Sipes alleges that as he attempted to leave the venue after the confrontation, he was ambushed in an adjacent alley. The lawsuit details a violent attack, with Sipes claiming he was beaten so severely by Eunice Benjima, a friend of Drake and Beckham, and others in their circle that he suffered traumatic brain injury, along with injuries to his back, neck, and shoulders. Sipes asserts that both Drake and Beckham stood nearby, watching the entire thing unfold without intervening. According to the complaint, Drake even made a throat slash gesture before the altercation began, adding an ominous layer to the events of the evening. Footage from the incident, captured on security cameras, has been at the center of the case. While Drake's legal team maintains that the rapper had no physical involvement and was merely a bystander, Sipes argues that Drake's presence and alleged gestures incited the attack. In his lawsuit, Sipes seeks $250,000 in damages, citing pain and suffering, medical bills, lost future earnings, and emotional distress. The incident has sparked conversations about what really goes on behind the velvet ropes at these exclusive gatherings. Drake's mansion and the high-profile parties he throws have always been shrouded in mystery, offering an allure of exclusivity that keeps the public fascinated. But Sipes' allegations paint a starkly different picture, one of unchecked power dynamics and a culture of impunity among the rich and famous. While Drake's team continues to deny the accusations, the case serves as a reminder that not everything about the glamorous world of celebrity parties is as pristine as it seems. Drake's name has been tied to countless headlines over the years, but one of the more controversial stories revolves around his settlement with Laquana Morris, also known as Layla Lace. In 2017, Morris accused Drake of misconduct and later claimed he had impregnated her at an afterparty following his Manchester concert. The fallout from those allegations saw Drake shelling out a reported $350,000 in a settlement. What began as an encounter between the rapper and the aspiring model turned into a legal battle months later. Morris alleged that after spending time together, Drake forced himself on her and impregnated her. These claims surfaced publicly when she went on a media spree, painting the rapper in a damning light. In court documents, Drake admitted to having consensual sex with Morris that night, but denied any allegations of wrongdoing. Things escalated when Morris reportedly booked a flight to see Drake after their encounter, only to cancel it when he didn't respond. According to Drake's lawsuit, her frustration over the lack of communication seemed to fuel her accusations, which he alleged were part of a plot to extract money from him. Morris later claimed Drake had impregnated her, but the situation took an even stranger turn when, according to Drake's team, she refused to take a paternity test. The Manchester police were eventually involved, and Drake was cleared of any wrongdoing, but the damage to his reputation had already been done. Morris didn't stop there. She took her accusations further, leading Drake to file his own countersuit against her for civil extortion, fraud, emotional distress, defamation, and abuse of process. By November 2018, the situation reached a boiling point, and Drake's legal team negotiated a settlement with Morris. Reports indicate that the agreement included a payment of $350,000, along with a stipulation that Morris could no longer repeat her allegations against the rapper. In a surprising twist, Morris later filed a complaint against her own attorney, claiming that the settlement portrayed Drake as the victim and did not adequately represent her interests. She accused her legal team of working with Drake's lawyers to her detriment, a move that reignited the controversy surrounding the case. While no raid or official investigation has ever disrupted the tight operation at the embassy, speculation about what could happen if the law ever comes knocking has people talking. For some, the idea of seeing the police break through Drake's layers of security feels like something straight out of a movie. But for others, it's just another chapter in a story of power, influence, and the lengths celebrities go to keep their private lives under wraps. Drake's neighbors aren't the only ones with stories to tell. Whether you're walking past the embassy or scrolling through social media, the divide is clear. There's the public persona of Drake, the global superstar, and then there's the shadowy whispers of what happens when the cameras are off and the gates close. But Jay-Z's gold parties took Hollywood secret parties to another level as the rapper collaborated with his wife to cover up the shocking things going down. Jay-Z's Gold Post Oscars parties. Jay-Z and Beyonce's annual Gold Party isn't just a party, it's a flex. Forget Vanity Fair or any other Oscars after party. If you're not at the Gold Party, you're not in the right room. Hosted in low-key but luxe spots like the Chateau Marmont parking lot, this event draws the biggest names in the game. Rihanna, Adele, Drake, Leonardo DiCaprio. The guest list alone is its own bragging rights. But as locked down as this event is, some wild stories have started leaking out and they're not exactly flattering. The Carters are pros at keeping things airtight. Phones confiscated at the door, NDAs, mandatory paparazzi, don't even bother. Nobody's catching Beyonce slipping in or out. Even guests like Tiffany Haddish, who's known for spilling tea, have learned to keep their mouths shut if they ever want to see another invite. The party vibes are always on point. Custom cocktails, pool tables, and surprise performances by Bey and Jay themselves. On the surface, it's all fun, champagne, and A-list glam. But dig a little deeper, and the whispers start to get louder. Over the years, accounts of power trips, intimidation, and straight-up unsettling behavior have trickled out. The kind of stories that make you wonder what really goes on once the music stops and the IG-worthy moments fade. Some guests leave the party with more than just a hangover. Others reportedly leave silenced before they can even share what they saw. Larry Johnson, the former NFL star, added fuel to this fire when he appeared on Fearless with Jason Whitlock and dropped some shocking claims about a party hosted by Jay-Z and Beyonce back in 2006. According to Johnson, the night started as a rap party for a Rocawear photo shoot in Colorado. The usual scene, big names like Beyonce, Naomi Campbell, and Jamie King were in the mix. But as the night went on, things took a strange turn. Johnson recalled how, out of nowhere, young children showed up at the party. He recalled this while he looked visibly uncomfortable even talking about it. He claimed one child sat next to Beyonce, who allegedly leaned over and asked her if she looked sexy enough. That moment, he said, stuck with him, and not in a good way. The timing of Johnson's allegations is wild because they come as Jay-Z is already facing legal heat from other lawsuits involving minors. One anonymous plaintiff alleges she was mistreated by Jay-Z and Diddy at an after-party following the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards. She claimed she was just 13 years old at the time and was forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement before the incident. Johnson's willingness to speak out adds weight to these whispers. He's not some random internet troll. He's a former NFL star putting his reputation on the line to share what he says he saw. It's the kind of thing that makes you wonder how much of this is just industry gossip and how much is the kind of truth people in power would do anything to keep quiet. The scene was set at the Kit Kat Club in Manhattan, where the industry elite gathered for a listening party celebrating Q-Tip's amplified album. What should have been a night of music and networking turned into chaos when Jay-Z, in the heat of a confrontation, stabbed producer Lance Rivera. The reason? Allegedly, Jay believed Rivera was behind the bootlegging of his album. Tensions escalated quickly, and in the crowded party atmosphere, the confrontation ended with Rivera bleeding from a knife wound. Witnesses at the party described the moment as surreal. Jay-Z, at the peak of his fame, involved in a violent altercation that felt more street than the polished VIP vibe of the Kit Kat Club. The event was packed with industry elites there to celebrate, but the energy shifted when Jay confronted Rivera. According to Rivera, the attack came out of nowhere, leaving him blindsided and bleeding, a shocking escalation that could have shattered Jay's empire. In the days after the incident, Jay-Z turned himself in and faced second-degree felony assault charges. With a potential 15-year prison sentence hanging over his head, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Nearly 2 years later, in October 2001, Jay stunned the public by pleading guilty to a reduced charge. His sentence? 3 years probation, a far cry from the lengthy sentence many expected. The leniency sparked controversy, with critics pointing to Jay-Z's wealth, connections, and top-tier legal team as reasons for the favorable outcome. It felt like a clear example of how influence can tilt the scales of justice. For Rivera, though, the aftermath of the party left little closure, a stab wound and no real justice for what happened that night. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the videos on your screen to dive into more content from our channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more.